Welcome to DNF, the most important Formula One podcast on the internet. And I am joined, as always, by Jessica Smetana. I am Spencer Hall. You should introduce yourself first. That's how podcasts work. We're not alone this week. We are all, as always, with our producer, Douglas Reyes Cerrone. But that's not all, because all we do is keep giving you extras. Isn't that correct, Jessica?
It's true. We have a very special guest this week, someone that I spent an entire day with ahead of the Miami Grand Prix, Alanis King. She's been on the show before. She's an editor-at-large for the Motorsport Network. She has her own YouTube channel where she reviews cars and has other fun-related car videos. She's also the author of Racing with Rich Energy. So, Alanis, we're pumped to have you on the show because we have a lot to talk about, not just in Formula One, but all over the wide world of motorsports.
I am so happy to be here. And Jessica and I had the best time together in Miami. We actually went to a restaurant and we're told we couldn't order because we weren't members. And we both just had this moment of, what is going on? We had such a great day and we actually got to order because we were nice.
They let us eat all because of Alanis. Honestly, I'm the kind of person that's just like, no, I can't even. I'm leaving. Alanis is like, please, can we please order lunch? And they were like, okay, fine.
Where was this?
We were at Soho House, Miami Beach, and we went up.
I was about to say, I don't know if we should say. I don't know why. I'm trying to protect them. Out.
Well, we were at Soho House, Miami Beach, and there was an event that we were doing. And I understand their normal procedures are if you're a member, you can do all that stuff. If you're not, you can't. So we kind of had to explain to them, hey, we're actually here in an official capacity. And I feel like a lot of people would just go, oh, okay, we're leaving. Jessica was like, let's go. And I was like, no, please. We're here for an event. I promise. Look at our wristband. Can you go ask your boss? And the guy was like, yeah, I'll go ask my boss. And they came back and told us we could order.
Saved the day, honestly, because it was hot out there. We were hungry. Girls needed to eat. So.
Girls needed to eat.
Goodness.
I am so glad that you managed to con your way into Soho House, which is basically what everyone does one way or another. There's a con involved either on the front end or the back end. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Alanis, before we start talking about racing in general, I wanted to talk about your YouTube channel because I like to plug shit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But also like good things that people should enjoy. It is a superb car review channel, one that I think is made better by the fact that you climb into the trunk of each car.
Thank you so much.
Just whether you can fit, which I think that's important. It's important to note that you can fit an entire human being in the trunk or not.
I fully agree. And, the YouTube channel is actually something we only started doing about 7 or 8 months ago. We haven't even been doing this for a year. We just decided, my husband and I decided to just do it. And we dove straight into it. And it got to the point where his full-time job, he had been there for like 8 years. It wasn't working anymore. He was like, I need to leave. So he left a couple months ago. I said, hun, take a break. Let's work on the YouTube channel. Do your thing. So me and him get a car every single week. I write the reviews and I present them. He films and edits them and puts like classical music and stuff on them. And then we post them. And I think they look really nice, especially for a 2-person operation. And most importantly, you get to find out how many Alanises can fit in the trunk.
By the way, shouts out to classical composers for dying and giving us rights-free music.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being dead, Brahms. Thank you for being dead, Haydn.
When we were at that forbidden lunch last week, we talked a lot about your YouTube channel because I think it's like so impressive and so cool that you guys do it. And I love, you just have such an immense knowledge of cars and of racing and of everything. And you're an incredible expert on the topic. But I wanted to ask you something, but I felt like it was such a stupid question. And now I'm just going to do it like publicly in our podcast instead. Like, where do you get the cars? Like, how do you just have these cars?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question because a lot of people don't know how this works. Basically, automotive manufacturers have fleets of cars across the country, and these cars are reserved for reviewers and people like that, and important events, fleet events, manufacturer events. And these fleets manage like 8 to 10 manufacturers, and then those fleets bring cars to your house. So there are two fleets I work with, two main fleets I work with in Texas, and then some automakers have their own fleets. Like Ford, which I currently have a Ford in my driveway, they have their own fleets. So what they do is they have drivers and managers and stuff like that. Those people bring the cars to your house, they drop them off in the driveway, they drive back to the fleet office, and then in a week they pick them up and swap them out for another car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for making me feel like that wasn't the worst question ever.
No,
I mean, I guess it's what I expected, but still.
No, it wasn't a bad question. And it's actually really interesting because, like, the normal cars, they'll drive down here. But sometimes if you have a Lamborghini or a McLaren or something like that, they actually bring an 18-wheeler to your house. So it's a big event in the neighborhood when the 18-wheeler pulls up and the Lamborghini comes off. And all of my neighbors, I live in a retirement community, all of my neighbors come out and stand at the end of the driveway and stare like, what's coming out of the 18-wheeler? And then a Lamborghini comes out and they're like, oh, so it's actually really funny.
Yeah, to give you an idea of how easy this is to do, please, we're on a podcast, so the internet can't hear this. I just asked Dodge for a Hellcat when they first came out, and they delivered one to my house.
Yes,
They
that's
just drove a 707 horsepower car to my home. So it's easier than you think. You do have to return the car, though, in
unfortunately
one
yes.
piece.
Mostly one piece. Now, things have happened. I have had coworkers actually get cars stolen. There was one big thing that happened at my last job where there was a car in Detroit for the Detroit Auto Show, and it had a Hellcat engine in it. And Hellcat engines are very, very big to resell. So people, when they steal the car, they don't actually need the car. They only want the engine to sell it. And so they'll just take your car, roll it out of the driveway, pluck the engine out of it, and scrap the rest. And so my coworkers went to sleep one night, woke up the next morning, car's gone. No car. And that car, eventually, I think like a year later, it was found and it was just completely torn apart because they only needed the engine.
Yeah, you have to
Wow,
return the engine. It's an important part.
That's important, I would say. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, I want to get to a little Formula One stuff,
Ooh,
but
okay.
I'm sure we'll return to car reviewing after this. We're recording this on Monday, and if you woke up Monday morning and saw a tweet on your timeline about Chicago being approved for a Formula One race, I have some bad news. As far as every reporter in Formula One knows, that is not true. But it does seem like a potential Chicago race could still be in the works for Formula one day in the future. So how do we feel about the United States getting potentially a fourth race, potentially a race in Chicago, and potentially another street circuit race stateside?
Ooh, I think this is a really interesting situation because the United States is so saturated with Formula One races right now. And Formula One like Formula One is just historically a sport that goes to one country at a time. And if you get two races, it's a huge deal. We now have three. To have a fourth would be so many F1 races. Do I think the attendance would be fantastic and everything would be great? Yeah, but long term, I don't know about oversaturating. I'm just not one of those people who looks at the numbers and can tell you if that's a good idea.
I do think in a Chicago race long term, and talk about stages, about the canvas or the backdrop, that to me is the logical place because it's huge. You can get around Chicago fairly easily. Don't talk about the Dan Ryan, Jessica. Okay, don't talk about specifics. I just mean logistically, it can be done. If we stage a race in Miami every year, we can stage a race in Chicago. It's an easier proposition, and it also looks really cool. I think it has the best visuals of any city, and it already has the proof of concept in the form of the NASCAR race and in form of IndyCar races that have happened there. Chicago is the place, I think, where F1 would have to go. That's option one if they have to go. Nate Saunders says, of course, this is anything but a done deal. And if Nate says it, that is close friend of Ed Sheeran, Nate Saunders, then it has to be true. Okay. Not just because he's friends with a famous person now, but because he knows what he's talking about. So it makes sense to me. When you talk about saturating the market, it's very strange to me because I was kind of running the numbers in my head and realized that the United States, which is not the world's largest nation, would at that point have 4 Formula One races, and that the 2 largest countries by population in the world would combined have 1. That's it, with India having 0. That's just, if you want to know how the numbers work and why maybe you shouldn't watch those numbers in particular, that's why. I would worry that it would come at the expense of COTA, because COTA to me is the best circuit in the Americas. It is the best pure racing experience. I think it is the best spectator experience. And it is also the one that kind of has a hard time selling itself beyond the hardcore racing audience that F1 already owns. Is that, I mean, Alanis, Jessica, does that seem accurate?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I think it would be unfortunate to lose COTA if that ever happened. And we were in danger of losing COTA for a while before Formula One's giant boom in the United States. There were years of just torrential rains and flooding during the race weekend. And that led people to be really mad about the lack of success the F1 race had. And government officials were like, we don't want to continue supporting this with our tax dollars. We want to just be done with this. So we were at risk of losing COTA like 10 years ago. And I think COTA is a really, really good circuit, but you're right. It is for the more hardcore people.
Yeah, I mean, I see the ratings that the Formula One race in Miami got this past weekend, and it had the largest U.S. audience for a Formula One race to date, with over 3 million viewers, and it peaked around like 3.5 million viewers. And obviously, like, I hate ratings talk. It is not anything that is that interesting, but I think it speaks to the audience that Formula One wants to tap into. And if they can put more races on the Eastern or Central time zone in the United States and get those numbers, it's obviously they'll get more money for the TV product. They'll get more money in sponsorships and branding and everything like that. And so it purely becomes, I think, a numbers game. And like you said, I think the attendance would crush. So wouldn't surprise me if it happened, but I'm with you, Alanis. I would be worried that it would be, instead of a race in Austin and not in addition to, and we'd end up with a situation where a lot of racing fans' favorite American race no longer happens because we're creating this new thing in Chicago, which could be really cool.
I also think there's a very interesting PR angle to oversaturating yourself. We see with celebrities who have been in the public eye for many decades and very, very popular for many decades, you have to kind of wait for them to give you pieces of themselves, wait for them to give you content, photos, videos, all kinds of stuff like that. It keeps them in demand. Someone like Beyonce, I feel like I see her occasionally, and when you do, it's a big deal. And I think there's been a discussion online recently, especially with all of the talk about Taylor Swift, Eras Tour, all of that. There's a lot of Taylor Swift right now. And so it gives people more leeway to start criticizing, feel like there's too much out there, whereas with someone like Beyonce, who you see less of, when people see her, they're like, wow, that's so exciting. It's very unanimously excited. So when you oversaturate yourself, you open yourself up to more criticism and people thinking about you more in a critical way, whereas just being excited to see you. So I think there is kind of a case study there of too much Formula One could lead people to be very critical of Formula One.
It's just a wild spot to be in, given how Formula One was agnostic to completely cold to the United States for the better part of 40 years. And now there is a potential of having 4, not North American races, 4 United States races in the same calendar. That is bonkers. I want to talk about a place that I know Formula One will never touch. I feel very safe saying this, okay? The Darlington race in NASCAR was this past weekend, Alanis.
It's like Darlington.
Imagine running an F1 race at Darlington, man.
I would love it. Please do it. Eat the tires. Let's go.
Just eat the tires. Bunch of guys from Beaufort coming in being like, that car ain't got a roof. I wanted to ask, since you have worked as a NASCAR spotter, did you watch the race?
Yes, I watch every single NASCAR race. I do not miss a single one.
Okay, superb.
You're so sad.
You're a better hillbilly than me, because
I'm such a hillbilly.
What did you think? Were you satisfied with it? And then I have a follow-up.
Yes, I thought it was really good. So I watched 2 of the 3 races this weekend. I will watch the one I missed this week when it gets posted online because I watch every single one of them. So many hours of my life. But I was away this weekend, so I missed the middle race, the Xfinity Series race. The Cup Series race I thought was very, very good. Darlington is a really interesting track because the surface just eats tires. And when you have the surface eat tires, you have a lot of fall off in speed. So cars that have just gotten fresh tires are monumentally faster than cars on old tires. And that leads to kind of Formula One like strategies, going for the undercut, the overcut. Are you going to do a 2-stopper or a 3-stopper? It's a very Formula One strategy like track because of that tire wear, but with 40 people who could win the race instead of one. So it makes it really, really interesting. It was a great race. There was a super good ending to it. Basically, my dear friend Tyler Reddick, he led the race for most of the day and he was kind of the car to beat. But then 2 teammates, Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, they're really, really strong there at the end and they're fighting with Tyler. And when you have a teammate, that teammate can actually help you arrow wise to get ahead of the other driver who's by themselves. So Tyler's by himself racing 2 teammates. They have this great fight. It's really, really good. And then something happens. Tyler is in second and he goes to pass Chris Buescher, who's in the lead, dives down, makes a really hard move. The move doesn't work and he tries to save it, but he can't save it. And he slips up the track, hits Chris Buescher, like destroys both of their days pretty much. Neither of them can win. And Chris Buescher was very, very mad after the fact. Tyler was like, I'm so sorry. You're right. That was a bad move. That's my bad. And Brad Keselowski won. So it was a very good race coming off of a race that was actually like the closest in NASCAR history, the finish. You could not tell who won. And Chris Buescher also lost that race. So he's been very upset for the past 2 weeks, understandably.
The Chris Buescher race that you just mentioned last week was the one that came down to, I think, in 1,000th of a second,
And it
correct?
looked like he won. I thought he won. And then you look at the actual photo finish and he just, by this much, like literal centimeters, lost. And then Tyler slipped up this week and got him again. Poor Chris Buescher. I'm sorry, Chris Buescher, but it's been really entertaining. And Darlington was very good.
Is your experience as a spotter, as a veteran NASCAR spotter, do you now, has it ruined the way you watch races? Has it improved it? Do you now see things and go, oh, well, they missed that?
You know, I honestly look at it as a learning experience instead of a critiquing experience. So a NASCAR spotter, what their role is to tell a driver what cars are around them and behind them in particular. So if there's a fast car behind you coming up on you, that's really important for a spotter to tell you if there's a slow car in front, if there's a wreck, if somebody's beside you, where they're at, if you're clear or not. So if you're clear by just a little bit of a nose or if you have overlap with a car, you're trying to keep that driver from wrecking and also keep them safe from the cars around them. So when I watch races, I'm not critical of other spotters. I'm just very much trying to learn and absorb because I do want to spot for more races. I think it would be really fun. And so I kind of watch what's going on and how I would call it versus how they call it. We actually often bring up the team radio and listen to the spotters and see what they're calling, because I do think it would be really fun to just kind of regularly spot for NASCAR cars and just be an actual spotter instead of a one-time spotter. So I am trying to learn and absorb as much information as possible because there's so much that you need to know. And I figured it out while I was there, right? But there's so much more that I can learn to be a better spotter.
What is stopping you from this becoming your third part of your career?
So NASCAR, the top level Cup Series, they have 36 races a year, 38 if you include the 2 exhibition races. And so it is an every weekend kind of thing. That schedule also includes restrictor plate tracks like Daytona and Talladega, where the spotter has to be so good, like so many years of experience. I could not be a full-time spotter due to the fact that I don't have enough experience on not restrictor plates. They run restrictor plates everywhere now. Super speedways like Daytona and Talladega. I don't have the experience to spot there. Therefore, I couldn't do a full season, but I'm starting with road courses. I may do Chicago, the NASCAR race, and then maybe I'll branch into ovals. And then maybe one day I'll get someone to let me do a super speedway. But it's one of those things where you really have to work on that career, and the full-time spotters work hand in hand with drivers to watch film and see what they can do better and stuff like that. So if you were to be a full-time spotter, it is a day-to-day career.
If you, by the way, would like to do an international incident as a racing fan and do something really wild at a Formula One track, I invite you to do something similar to what a fan did at Darlington this weekend, which was get so excited by the end of the race and presumably Brad Keselowski's biggest performance in years by climbing the catch fence in boots.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see, not only did he climb the whole thing, he's in pointy-toed cowboy boots.
You had
that
a little
probably helps, right?
You had a little bit of an accent when you said climb. You said climb.
What? Because he did. That's what
very
he did.
Fitting. It was very
Yeah,
fitting.
He climbed that thing. Yeah.
But it's like what's it called? The type of fence, the wired fence. Like I think the pointy-toed boots help you get some, you can insert them into the, what is this called? Chain link? Is that what it is? I'm blanking right now.
The catch fence, it's kind of like chain link, but much stronger. I don't think
you need a pointy boot.
I don't think there's anything boots give you an advantage climbing, not those kind of boots. Those boots are meant for scooting. They are meant for line dancing, right? And they are meant for putting up someone's ass in a fight. They are not meant for climbing. Okay. It's like he was as good at climbing that catch fence as a human being possibly could be. It was very impressive. If you would like to get thrown out of every Formula One race ever, just do that once. Go do that. Go do that at Imola.
Some people wear their boots to have an extra 4-inch lift, but we don't have to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Now that we're back on the Formula One topic, Spencer and Alanis, there's been a lot of new things happening in Formula One lately. For one, a lot of positive reinforcements coming to Ferrari, specifically a couple Mercedes as strategist engineers going over to Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton, of course, going over to Ferrari at the end of the season. Should Mercedes as a team, as a brand, be worried, be nervous? Like their car's not doing great right now, but it's okay. They're losing their world championship driver, and now they've lost a couple key pieces of their team. Like, should Mercedes fans freak out?
I would freak out. Yeah, as a Mercedes fan. I think if Mercedes freaks out, they're just wasting time. I think if you spend time freaking out, you're just wasting time, because this is a very important moment to not only rebuild technically and get your car better and get a new driver situation and pair someone really good with George Russell. You also have to rebuild your reputation among fans. You have to be like, we are powerhouses. We can win, because right now we kind of just feel bad for Mercedes, and it's important to build that reputation that they had for so many years. That's gone right now.
I appreciate you skipping directly to panic, though. Like that you admit,
panic.
I would 100% freak out, right?
But Toto should not panic, because I'm with you. That's very inefficient. That's a very inefficient use of time.
What's very interesting about Toto is he spent so many years being on top, right? Like he spent so many years as like the king of Formula One teams. And now Toto has to struggle. So we're going to really see a lot about Toto as they hopefully rebuild. Maybe they don't rebuild, I don't know. But we're going to see a lot about Toto's management style and how he builds things and what he does when he's not number one.
There is an irrational panic that Mercedes fans may be feeling, Alanis. I feel like there's going to be an equally irrational optimism, joy, and passion on one other side of the top of Formula One teams this week. We are now having our first European race, but not just our first European race. No, we are having the Grand Prix de Emilia Romagna at Imola. This is Ferrari's den. We are coming home. We are getting upgrades. We are consistently somewhere between 2 and 5 in the running order. We have 2 drivers that we really like. Only one that we're going to employ next year, but one that we really like.
This is also sad.
Everything's going to be red. We have upgrades. Do we fully understand what those upgrades are? No, we haven't read the specs. You could go get them if you want, but we're not going to read those. It's time to fly some flags. Is there anyone more absolutely high on their own supply this week than Ferrari?
No, but also they shouldn't be, because when you have hopes get crushed. Like, just don't have any hopes. And if something good happens, be pleasantly surprised. That's my recommendation.
I think that's fair. I think,
how dare you say that?
I think that's a great encapsulation of them also giving people like a little like, ooh, we're going to make our car blue, and then disappointing everyone because they got too excited about it. It's like a perfect microcosm of Ferrari. Slapping a big HP logo on their car, even though printers are the most finicky mechanical devices that anyone has in their home. But it's okay. The car is still great. Okay, don't worry about that, guys.
The car is still great, but we'll see how many tires we bring out for a pit stop. Hopefully it's 4.
Yeah. It's by the way, absolutely impossible to do anything with Ferrari without really complimenting Fred Vassar on being somebody who is incapable of overpromising. I love that. I absolutely love that. Even if it comes out of Fred Vassar's mouth and he's like, we're going to win this week, all I hear is, we'll see. Like, that's how that man stayed in charge for so long.
You know, I'd have to find the tweet, but I think it was like last year. If you went to Ferrari's F1 media portal and you looked at every single press release that they put out after a race weekend, it was the saddest thing I've ever seen. I compiled a bunch of screenshots, but it was just like, sadness in Monaco. Carlos Sainz finishes 18th or something like that. Like, every single headline was just like, we are sad. Things are bad. It was so like, I was so sad reading this, and I'm going to find it so I can read them to y'all while you talk.
I love that. I mean, I guess maybe like I've fallen for it, or the like positive PR is working on me, because I feel like the tides have turned. Like, I feel like right now Fred Vasseur is like the hot guy on the grid, and it helps that Gunther Steiner is no longer in F1, because now everyone's like, this is like the little F1 character that we all want to, make memes about and take pictures of and stuff like that. And I don't, it's working on me. All right, let us hear it.
2022 Spanish Grand Prix, a tough Sunday, but it's not all bad. 2022 Monaco Grand Prix, not the result we had hoped for. Azerbaijan Grand Prix, bitter disappointment.
That one's accurate.
French Grand Prix, Carlos makes up 14 places. A great shame for Charles.
I mean, that was the race that Charles like screamed in his car.
Oh, that was a scream of agony. Yeah, the moment when Charles Leclerc's soul broke. Yeah.
A great shame for Charles.
I mean, yeah, that's a good headline.
Yeah.
Hungarian Grand Prix, below par. Belgian Grand Prix, a tough race. Italian Grand Prix, an imperfect Sunday. This was their whole year in 2022. You went to their media portal. These are the titles of the press releases. A great shame for Charles.
By the way, if you fast forward a year and you go, well, how did Imola go for them next year? You go, it was flooded out.
Yeah.
They couldn't have it because of disastrous flooding.
True.
So this really does play into your theme. It'll be the first time in 2 years we've run this race, because last year track sort of underwater along with a lot of its surroundings. So yeah, all part of a theme for Ferrari that they will happily ignore this week. All of these things, I'm telling you, this week there will be none of that. The race will start and you're going to hear Crofty go, the Scuderia fans out in force. And it's just going to be red. Everybody's going to look like, yes, we're back on top. We're back. And then the race will start. And then they won't.
And then the race will start.
Yeah, right.
Engine just blows into turn one. Just poof.
Yeah. Just turns it into doves or confetti or something. Yeah.
I heard you wanted to ask Alanis about 24-hour Le Mans.
Oh,
This is your opportunity.
I did. We'll get to a few more Imola notes and upgrades and things I do want to talk about. But um, Ferrari last year, hugely successful at Le Mans, the 24-hour endurance race that is one of the triple crown of motorsport. Have you been?
yes. I went last year.
Okay.
I saw Ferrari, and last year was it was a huge deal because Ferrari's coming back to the top class. They win. Wow. Wild stuff. Ferrari has success. Go Ferrari. And they had the Garage 56 car from NASCAR. And the Garage 56 car was in a class. It was in its own class. Garage 56 is dedicated to innovative cars. So you don't necessarily have to follow the rules of any specific class. Just bring your own car, run the race, and see where you finish in the full running order. So at Le Mans, you have a bunch of different classes. Those classes compete against each other. And then there's a final ranking in the full running order out of like 60 cars. The Garage 56 class is its own class. So technically you win your class. Good job. You didn't even have to do anything and you win. But the idea is to see where you stack up against other cars. And Garage 56 was a program to show that the new NASCAR race car is actually capable of doing road courses and adaptable to sports car drivers and drivers around the world. Because for many, many decades, NASCAR cars were built to turn left, and they were built for good old American boys who've been turning left their whole life, right? Now this new race car can turn left and right, and it's very adaptable to drivers across the globe, which is why we saw with the Chicago race, Shane Van Gisbergen, an Australian supercars champion, hops in this car. He's literally driving on the other side of the car, wins his debut for the first time in 60 years that's happened in NASCAR. And so this Garage 56 car was meant to show, hey, come race with us. We have a car that you can adapt to, and it's competitive and good. And to see that thing at Le Mans was one of the highlights of my career and life, honestly.
I am going this year. Do you have any advice?
Oh,
Wow, breaking news.
go to the KFC on the track that overlooks the track, but don't
Absolutely.
go at 3 a.m. because my whole goal that weekend was to go to the KFC. And about 3 a.m., I read online that it was open 24 hours. The internet lied to me. It was not open. And I made this like several mile walk, and I did not get to go to KFC. My other recommendation, this is a very weird one, but if you have a media credential, get a photo vest when you arrive, get in a photo van, and go way over to the corner on the other side of the woods. Okay. And this is the coolest thing in the world. There's a corner like right before the Mulsanne Strait. You can take the photo van over there, and you go through the woods to get there. And Le Mans is an 8.5 mile massive track that's made out of permanent racetrack and public roads. And because of that, you go through the woods to get to the other side of the track. And when you're in the middle of the woods, if you roll down the window, you wouldn't even know there's a race going on because you can't hear anything. It's so surreal and so interesting to just be in the middle of the woods at Le Mans and know Le Mans is happening around you, but you would have no idea. It's very, very
Sounds
cool
like you
experience.
want Spencer to get kidnapped, Alanis. You're just setting him up for a kidnapping. Right
I
now.
will be waiting in the woods, and I will
man.
kidnap you.
The first man killed by a boar attack during a motor race at the track.
It's very cool, and I can just specifically remember sitting in one of the turns and watching the Garage 56 car just go through and open up when they hit the straightaway. And if you didn't follow Le Mans, you didn't follow the Garage 56 car, the main thing about that car was when it arrived, it was like 2 times the size of every other vehicle there. It looked ridiculous. It looked like it was Photoshopped.
The big car. Yeah, it was
The big car. It was
Yeah.
the big car. And it was so much louder than every other car out there. Because with sports cars, they go by and it's like, and then you'd have like a Cadillac go by, and then you have the Garage 56 car by, and like shake the whole facility. And And what was so wild is NASCAR cars are known for being extremely loud, just ridiculous pushrod V8s. But NASCAR cars also have side exit exhaust. So whereas the other loud, quote unquote, loud cars at Le Mans, they didn't hold a candle to the Garage 56 car because they had rear exit exhaust. Whereas the side exit exhaust just blow all that sound straight into the spectator areas. So what was really wild was the whole 24 hours, every 4 minutes that car would go by and it just and everybody would wake up every 4 minutes and go, there's the NASCAR. And then they'd go back to sleep. 4 minutes later, there's the NASCAR. And then they'd go back to sleep. It was every 4 minutes for 24 hours. And I never saw anyone get sick of it. It was such a marvel to watch it go by that you commented on it every single time. You watched it every single time. And you were just amazed to see it every single time. And it was ridiculous being in France because in America, people make fun of you for saying the NASCAR or NASCARs, using NASCAR as a word for the car. It would be like saying the Formula Ones, right? It's a Formula One car. But in France, because that was like all they knew, you just started saying, oh, that's the NASCAR. Like you started adopting the language, the terminology, and you go, oh yeah, there goes the NASCAR. Whereas you can't do that in America, but you can do that in France. And it was just such a community experience to be able to see this. And it's something that will probably never happen again. And I just think back on it so fondly.
We love the big cars. The big
We
car
love the
has
big
such
car.
force. He's a
The
brute.
NASCAR.
Yes.
He's enigmatic, but he is also friendly.
A trip to France is so wasted on you because you don't like cheese, Spencer. I'm actually like a little annoyed right now.
But man, all the stuff they make out of parts, all your various like pâtés, all your various head cheeses that you eat on baguettes, here for it.
There you go. Good for
Yeah.
you. You got
I mean,
this.
Same, but the cheese also.
All the saucisson. That's more cheese for you.
That's fine.
More
That's
cheese
fine.
for you.
I'm not
Oh,
going with you, but it's fine.
have so much fun, Spencer. It's really, really amazing. Just go get on the phone of us and stop in the woods and just take it all in for a minute.
I will. I will be there along with former F1 drivers such as Nick DeVries.
Nice.
Antonio Giovinazzi is also doing work for I like that it's listed as Ferrari AF Corsa, which to me just reads as Ferrari as fuck, you know? Like you could do the Formula One stuff, but if you want to do the Ferrari as fuck, gotta go to Le Mans.
Hopefully the race isn't Ferrari AF in bad ways.
Yeah. I wanted to go back very quickly to a couple of just notes on Imola and what they might mean. We did just do an entire thing I know about Ferrari bringing upgrades. That's cute. That's cool. Everybody got upgrades, and that means Red Bull too. Red Bull is going to be bringing some less significant upgrades. McLaren is going to have a fully upgraded team. Oscar Piastri is going to get all the goodies that Lando Norris had in Miami. Pardon me, VCARB or whatever you want to call them, RB, Yuki Rick is what I'm just kind of calling them in my head.
Yuki Rick, please, because they say RB on the broadcast, and I'm like, what? The who?
Yeah, Yuki Rick. The
Yuki Rick.
Yes, the most adorable two-headed beast on the grid. Has some upgrades as well. So does Aston Martin. Even Sauber is going to do some pit upgrades. I presume that means knowing what they're doing and doing pit stops in less than 20 seconds, which is novel to me. So don't get too excited about, oh man, Ferrari's going to do it. I know Ferrari fans hearing this, they're not going to hear me. Don't get too excited. They'll be like, I don't care. Similar. We got red flags. But everyone else is bringing stuff as well.
Oh no.
Who's going to predict the Lando repeat? Anyone?
Why did you ask when you
no
already
nose
know the
goes.
answer? Why did you ask when you
It could happen.
I'm doing no nose goes. Someone else has to pick it.
Spencer
gets the
I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
Lando repeat.
Let me just put it this way. McLaren's run really well at this track. Zach Brown has said that it is a strong race. That is a quote. And we could win again this year, says McLaren boss Zach Brown. So yeah, you go, I lost. No. Lando will win, or maybe
Or
even more.
Oscar.
Maybe even more shocking, Oscar might take down his first bag. That might happen as well.
You know, if we're taking Zach Brown's quote on it, I will also win in Formula One this year. Spread
Yeah.
it around.
It's a
Yeah.
strong race. It's a strong race for us.
It's a
Honest.
big race for me. You know, I'm really good there. Got the Ferrari, got the red, got the love. I'll drive a red car. I win.
It is I don't want to say a weird track. It is a varied track. It is a very good track. There are a lot. It asks cars to do a lot of different things. It has to be a very versatile ride. And who knows? Maybe Max won't get super mad and just smoke everyone by 10 seconds this time.
Maybe we'll have a throwback Charles Leclerc pole, Max win.
Ooh, that's the move. Is that what you're gonna call?
That's my prediction.
You know what? That is a veteran move, and I appreciate it. Alanis, if you had to go ahead and
Oh,
put
man.
dollars to this particular donut, which donut do you wager on?
This is so sad because like my prediction will just make me sad. I just think it's Max all the way. Like
Everyone said that last weekend, Alanis.
I know, but you have to understand that the universe gives you little treats, right? The universe says, Lando win. Yay. Things are getting
Mhm.
better. And then the universe goes, nope, we're done, right? Like it's just that's how it works. You have to expect the worst. Just like when I went to Miami and I got in my shower and I saw that the floor was slippery. I was like, someone could fall on that. And I prepared myself in case it was me. It was me because the universe will get you. Okay. So you just gotta expect the worst, which is gonna
It's
be
weird.
Max all the way.
It's weird that they make all of the floors in the hotels down here like slippery marble and slippery tile.
It's healing.
because-
Mhm.
Oh my God, it looks terrible. I'm so sorry.
No, it looks so much better than it did. You have no, it got
God.
so bad. People thought I got a tattoo. I went to my grandmother's memorial and people thought they were like, oh, that's a really big tattoo. And I was
It
like,
kind
no.
of looks like Imola if you look at it sideways.
It kind of looks like the Nürburgring too. It's got
Yeah.
that little, yeah. Yeah. So you have to prepare yourself for when the universe gets you. And so when I fell in the shower and I hit every part of my body, including my head, I just sat there and I go, yeah, that's okay. That happens.
Because
Okay.
the universe gave us lunch and then they took away your
Exactly.
shower.
Right.
Exactly. And when Max wins, I'll go, yep. Okay. That happens.
That's the pizza party that comes. The pizza party was Lando winning, and then the announcement that your 401k is no longer matched. That's
That's Max.
exactly what's happening here. I'm
so glad we.
I have something that I want to do last, just as a way, we're porting it over from a couple of other different discussions that I've had about F1 this year. Everyone does ooh, give us your podium. No, I don't
no.
just want your podium. Okay.
Okay, good.
I want your wild boys podium. I want your wild man's bet. I want your completely unhinged. Okay. For instance, I don't want to see Max on this podium if you're making a prediction. Okay. I might not even want to see Sergio, though I can accept it. Okay. If just Max is off limits, if you want to do and everything's gone sideways, Wild Man 3, that's going to make you look like a genius. If it actually hits, what would it be? I'll start with you, Alanis.
Hey, when it's a wild man's podium, it's always Esteban and Pierre. They're always on it.
Ooh.
So we just have to pick our third, which is, let me think.
So you're going, I mean, I'm not going to even ask you to place them. Okay. This is just
Okay. Esteban, Pierre, and Alex Albon.
That's lunacy. I like
That
it.
is crazy.
Because when it's a wild podium, is it not always Esteban and Pierre? Is it not? It's always Esteban and Pierre.
I think his name would imply that Esty Bestie would be a
Esty
first.
Bestie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jessica, give me your Wild Man's 3 here.
Okay. Well, Imola it's very technical, right? Like it's very, very precise in its in your read of it. So I'm gonna go with Yuki because I know you're gonna take Yuki.
Yes, I
So
am.
we can at least have someone in common. Let me think. Maybe I think Oscar. I do feel good about Oscar just generally.
Mhm.
And maybe give me a Carlos. Give me a Carlos.
Ooh, I thought when you were talking about technical, I thought you were going to go Fernando Alonso.
That would also be a really good choice. But no.
I'm going to do the
I don't trust
greatest
the
greatest
Aston
pleasure and pain
gosh.
combined in the same
Oh,
possible one, which would be this. I'll do them in order. Don't have to, but I'm going to do them in order for plot purposes. Okay. That third, we would get George, which would be a great result for George, but also I feel like he'd be disappointed because just you'd be like you'd be getting the most credit you could get at once. So George, Charles, who would be leading at this point, were it not for a series of calamitous events, giving us his first win and podium on the year, Yuki Tsunoda in one. So that is the wildest prediction. By the way, Charles, of course, would be in leading late in the race and would mess something up, and Yuki would take advantage.
I understand that it's wild in the context of the world for Yuki to win, but in the context of your world, does it qualify as wild?
No, because he's on the podium every week in my heart. and factually speaking, continues to outperform his race car week to week. Continues to run in the top 10, continues to get almost all of the points for RB, I believe, this season are on Yuki's head and come as a result of his work. That man is a champion in the making. I still maintain he's a difference maker. So yeah, pole win Yuki right there.
All right.
All right. Well, Alanis, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
We're going to have you back at some point, maybe to review Spencer's trip to France.
That sounds great. That sounds great. That would be the best. Y'all are the best. I'm so happy to have dropped by. We talked about my YouTube channel earlier. We're actually working on the edit right now for a Ford Mustang Dark Horse review. And I'm very excited about that. It's 500 horsepower and it's awesome. And I also had the singer for my favorite band come review it with me. So
what? Can you tell us
I,
who that is, or is that a surprise?
So no, not a surprise. I posted about it, so I don't have to keep it a secret. I called Ford and I said, "Can the singer of my favorite band drive the car?" And Ford said, "Yeah, whatever." And they sent him a loan document. He signed it. It is Craig Mabbitt of Escape to Fate, and he had the best time ever. If you were around in like the mid 2000s, Escape to Fate was in that big like emo genre. They're still around making really, really, really great music. And I was so excited to spend the day with Craig and drive a car.
That is incredible. Spencer and I will not do anything that interesting.
No, we're not doing anything close to that interesting. For a second, I was like, but the lead singer of Smash Mouth is dead, Alanis. Thank you for joining us, Alanis. It was a joy as always. Thank you for propping the book up in the shot, Douglas, Racing with Rich Energy. Yes, which was Blackstocking King's finest work. It is an entertaining ride. You should go ahead and read that as well. Thank you, Jessica Smetana, for putting up with my, shall we say, raspy, soulful vocals this week. And thank you for listening to this edition of DNF. We'll see you next week after Imola.